For the foreseeable future, in order to differentiate, you need that sort of mushy middle human ground. Use these tools to scrape the internet constantly for your content and constantly be putting that into Claude, not GPT, to analyze. And we always sort of call them PAM clusters, persona, angle, motivation. Like for every persona we're generating, we want to know which angles to utilize and under each of those angles, which motivations to ultimately utilize. I think people get so bogged down with their prompts, and I think that's the wrong mentality to have. I'm sure your prompt is fine. That's why when you subscribe to Midjourney or, Veo 3.1, I think it's like the Google Ultra subscription, you can use your prompt unlimited amount of times. And I promise you will get something that is in the ballpark of what you're looking for. Editors are stuck in their ways. Your strategists are sort of stuck in your ways. So we did a sort of a competition for each model. So we would say, take your favorite statics, animate it. Let's present in 4 weeks. We're going to judge it, and whoever gets, the best output gets, monetary incentive. And then we sort of leveled that up. Let's create a video. And then the ending result was creating a full ad.
And now, let's take a listen to the Scalability School podcast.
All right, welcome to episode 17 of the Scalability School podcast. Almost 20 episodes.
Listeners.
More episodes than listeners. There it is. That's the new tagline. That's really good. I actually did see that we just surpassed a big number of downloads. I'm not going to share it because it's private information, only available to our illustrious sponsors. But it's like, oh wow, this is real, and it's not inflated either. We haven't paid for anything. Some of these places do that, which we're not doing. So that's why we only have tens of listeners. But the people that are listening are real people. And we're very big on YouTube. I don't know if you ever heard of YouTube, but we're big on there as well. By the way, special guest today, AI expert, CEO of Selfmade, Will Sartourious. Will, glad to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Stoked to dive in.
Will also the AI captain of the Foxwell Founders membership. So
yeah, unofficial moderator of the channel.
That's right. So yeah, Will, basically we had presentations in Portland. You weren't there for our Foxwell Founders meetup, Brad, but basically we had all these different tables of Q4, creative, you could get an audit, and Will's was about AI, and there was the majority of folks were around Will's table the entire time looking at what he was creating. So that's what we brought to this podcast.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Stoked to be on for sure. And I feel like we should put a counter up the number of times we say Andromeda. If you're listening, you take a shot.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I got my electrolytes right here, so I'm ready to roll.
Yeah. But for us, where this sort of entire impetus behind getting really good at creative through AI came from was, well, one, at the front end, we sort of perfected using social listening to collect, Facebook comments, subreddit comments, Twitter, et cetera, built our own Shopify scraper. And so now you can plug in a brand and we can pull all this information core personas, core motivators, angles, et cetera. So that was the front end that I developed about a year ago. I think I talked about that in Amsterdam. And now I was okay, so the front end is done. Now we need to sort of figure out the back end. How can we take the content that we're creating and sort of amplify it, right? And there's a lot of different ways to go about this. There is sort of one sort of all-star flow that I like to talk about. But there's also a lot of little tweaks you can do, which are probably best for specific use cases, whether it's you have an image and you just it's 10 p.m., your editor's offline and you just need to resize it, but you only have the PNG. There's a solution for that. You have statics that are maybe fatiguing and you just want to convert them to GIF, add a little animation. CPMs on GIFs, we always see being a lot better than statics, even for the same image. Generally, in a 1-to-1 A/B tests, GIFs will generally always outperform statics. So just adding a little sort of fuel to the fire, that works too. I'm not a big clone ads guy. I know folks like to do that and sort of take competitors and insert their product. That's never something I've wanted to do, but we can sort of talk about a flow of finding inspiration on Pinterest, converting that to Midjourney, adding your product into that image. And then that is sort of how I like to clone ads. Because at the end of the day, where AI is really helpful is, again, it's a barbell. It's it's setting the foundation for strategists, which persona, angle, motivation do you want to focus on? And then it's amplifying existing content. That messy, mushy middle, I feel is so innately human. And unless you want to just revert to the mean and just do what everyone else is doing and contribute to, the sort of slop parade, by all means. But I don't think any of us on this call or, our team are aiming to do that. So, to that end, like I talked to my team sort of about like type 1 versus type 2 thinking, like Dan Kahneman, RIP. If you haven't read Thinking Fast and Slow, you should pick it up right now. It's the most amazing book I've ever read. But like obviously type 1 thinking is just like my brain is shut down. I'm just on autopilot. Type 2 is very much more so I'm being sort of thoughtful in my approach. And I feel like a lot of folks use AI for type 1 thinking, like, oh, I just like don't know how to fucking write this email. Like, I'm just going to do this. Or like, oh, I need a concept. GPT, help me write a concept or what have you. And again, like if you want to sort of revert to the mean and just like be average, like do that. But like if you can be thoughtful about your AI workflow and again, like amplifying existing content and sort of human messy thought, then you're going to be in a much better place.
This episode is brought to you by our friends over at Northbeam, the marketing attribution platform that a lot of us that listen to Scalability School and the hosts of Scalability School, we swear by and use. Northbeam rolled out something brand new that I think is pretty awesome. It's a real unlock, I think, called Clicks plus Deterministic Views. And it's the first ever deterministic view through attribution model. I mean, let's be honest, right? One day Click had us flying a little bit blind. You know the drill, right? Your TikTok or your CTV campaigns are building awareness clearly, driving site traffic and lifting sales across channels, but your attribution dashboard still gives all the credit to Google search because it was last click. It's like tracking who made the final shot in a basketball game, but ignoring the 5 assists, right, that got the ball there. So Clicks plus deterministic views flips that. It ties actual impressions, not guesses, but verified impressions to real conversions. We're talking direct integrations with Meta, TikTok, Snap, Pinterest, and even CTV. And Northbeam uses hard identifiers like order IDs and hashed emails to prove that someone saw the ad, didn't click, but later bought. That means you can finally measure the real impact of upper funnel campaigns. And the results are pretty nuts. One brand saw 283% more attributed conversions on TikTok. Another got 175% more attributed revenue than they knew even existed. And, another one drove 159% ROAS lift on Pinterest. So if you're tired of under budgeting awareness because attribution can't keep up, this is your chance to see the real journey and the full journey. So Northbeam Click plus deterministic views is live now. Head over to northbeam.io/demo to book a walkthrough and tell them we at Scalability School.
Can you give like an example? So you gave a couple examples of type 1, which was like, okay, this is the email I got. I yapped into GPT with my what I think I'm going to respond with. Can you make me sound like less of a dick? And then I kind of hit send. So that's maybe an example of type 1. Maybe you can give an example of like where people are using that in the creative process. But then like type 2, which is maybe some of the examples that we're going to go through. But because I know in like the original version of your notes here is like that was a big distinction for you to go through. So maybe we spend just a couple minutes like giving some examples before we dive into some of the workflows that you have.
Yeah, no doubt. So I would say type 1 is clone this ad for me. It's taking someone else's content that may not be applicable to you at all and just effectively using that as your own. Like maybe creative volume is what you're after and you don't really care about anything else. By all means, do that. Where again, like type 2 sort of comes in. It's like you can outsource a lot of thinking to AI, but I do think at least today and for the foreseeable future, in order to differentiate, you need that sort of mushy middle human ground. But like use Apify, use GigaBrain, use these tools to scrape the internet constantly for your content and constantly be putting that into Claude, not GPT, to analyze. And we always sort of call them PAM clusters, persona, angle, motivation. Like for every persona we're generating, we want to know which angles to utilize and under each of those angles, which motivations to ultimately utilize. And so that framework is created for our strategists internally, right? And so then we say, okay, strategist A, here's your persona, angle, and motivation, run wild, right? Like we've effectively now created a swim lane, or, a better metaphor is we've put the gutters down in your bowling lane. You can't sort of shoot a gutter ball now. We know that this is going to resonate with consumers, but now you have these frameworks, create a bigger swing, right? Or, conversely, look at the ad account. Maybe with this persona, angle, motivation combination, we haven't done an ugly ad. Or maybe we haven't done like a 3 reasons why, or we haven't talked about that in a founder interview and we need to get the founder on the horn and jam with them about it, right? So it's like create these lanes beforehand using AI, have the humans sort of pinpoint like where we're missing. And like that hole will be filled with AI. I don't doubt that. Maybe give it 6 months, 12 months. Like we're going to be able to identify where the holes are in your creative output. Like right now, that's an innately human thing. And then from there, like sort of do the work, right? Use editors, do post-production work. And then like once you sort of have something that you're ready to go, amplify that with AI. I will say one thing that we're trying to do, and we've mandated internally, is we can't use stock anymore. No stock photos. I got like in this dispute with Artlist.io. They were like, we're going to charge you 10K to like, freaking, up your license. And I was like, all right, sayonara, sucker. Like, eggs on your face, not mine. Like I was probably going to continue paying, $120 a month. But every piece of content that we're creating that would be stock is now AI, right? Because now we can create stock with actually the product in it. And, using tools like Dream, you can actually make the people look a lot less plasticky. And now that Veo 3.1 has start and end frames, like the world is your oyster. You can create whatever content you want. And so like my long-term strategy, and I think this should be really anyone's long-term strategy, is that like you on your teams have sort of like creative visionaries, right? Someone who's like thinking like this is a sort of vision, this is where we need to go. And then we hired people to just, where their entire job is to generate B-roll for that brand, right? Just using Veo 3.1, using Nano Banana, using Dream. And like now our editors have this plethora of B-roll that they can utilize that looks legit. And, if you get clients saying, I'm averse to using AI, like we get this all the time. And we're like, okay, cool. Let's just do one for you and we'll prove you wrong, right? And like, we have clients that are doing like around 5-6 million a month that were extremely averse to using AI. We did a video for them and they're like, so where did you guys shoot this? And we're like, gotcha. So it was just like one of these instances where, again, I don't want to knock on, there is a massive value add to be, shooting content. But like, if I just need a shot of me picking up this coffee cup, Brad, maybe I needed you picking up that coffee cup. It's going to be a lot easier for me to just do it myself.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that because literally within the last 48, like prior to our conversation, but right before, like over the last 48 hours, we've had somebody just like as a role test it out, just like building a B-roll library with whatever tools, all of the tools that I'm sure we're about to talk about. And I'm sure it'll be an iterative process to figure it out. But selfishly, that's why I was even more excited to talk, is like we're playing with this now a little bit more than we have been. And I'm going to steal some of this for myself.
Yeah. There's a lot that we can, I think the frameworks already that you've gone through, Will, are really helpful. I mean, I think a lot of it is, so much of this centers on people talking about Andromeda and, there has to be not just creative diversity, but now it's like, we had a question in the founders community this morning of like, all right, look, how are you even reworking your creative department to make because this requires more work now, right? That we have to come up with really net new ideas and not just iterations necessarily upon things. So I think we all feel that squeeze, and obviously AI can help us get there and make that a lot easier for us. So let's talk about, you have a number of different workflows to go through. So static, the first one you're talking about is static to, I believe you pronounce it GIF, like the peanut butter.
I'm a GIF guy. I'm a GIF personally. I don't know.
Of course. I've always been a GIF guy. I just still love calling it GIF. So it's static using Midjourney. So how does this one work in your opinion? And by the way, if you're not listening, if you're not watching this on YouTube, this is also, I was going to maybe even do some screen sharing here. And if you're on YouTube, if you're on YouTube.com, you'll be able to see this live. But otherwise, if not, or you'll be able to see this recorded. If not, Will can talk about it and talk through.
Yeah, for sure. And more than happy to sort of talk through my process as I go through. And one thing to sort of add, Brad, you mentioned that like you're building sort of a team around this. I think that was the number one question I got in Portland. It was like, how are you getting your team to do this? Because it's very easy to be an agency owner and be like, guys, use these AI tools. And everyone's going to be, sort of flip you the bird, be like, why would I do that? Like, it sounds like a huge pain, right? Editors are stuck in their ways. Your strategists are sort of stuck in your ways. So we did a sort of a competition for each model. So we would say like exactly what we're sort of talking about now. It's like, okay, we're going to start with Midjourney, take your favorite statics, animate it. Let's present in 4 weeks. We're going to judge it, and whoever gets, the best output gets, monetary incentive. And then we sort of leveled that up. Okay, take that GIF. Now let's put it into Veo 3. Let's create a video. And then the ending result was creating a full ad, right? And like that was a great way to get buy-in from everyone into the process. And it made it a lot more fun too, because like we created teams. Like it was just like there was a lot of team spirit. So that was an unlock for me, because I was just like, why are we not using this more? And then someone on our team, much smarter than me, suggested doing that. So
Can I ask some really, sorry, I know we're like distracting from the workflow stuff, which I'm very excited to get into, but do you feel like you have to like very directly address like your perception of what you think AI is going to do to their jobs to help get over that as well? Because like we have a bunch of designers on our team. It's like they see the tools and they're like anxious about what that means for them. And basically what I tell them is like, if you can figure out how to use this, like you're replacing yourself and you continue to be here. It's like you're just getting better and you're leveling up on what you do. The same goes for me, by the way. There's a bunch of tools that I can be able to do what I'm doing. You know, we used to spend hours building ads. Now we have tools like Ad Manage that it takes 3 seconds to launch 50 ads. You know, so it's like that's perpetually happening. Do you feel like that's the case for you? Like, do you find yourself explaining this to your team?
Totally. I mean, I think I like to sort of belabor the pain points that certain folks are feeling. Like, oh, we don't have footage of this, or blah. Like, can we get the client to send us this? It's like, well, we can, but like now you have that sort of ability to do it yourself. I also will say, like, and this may be sort of like a hot take, I actually think editors are going to be becoming increasingly more important. And I think sort of the top of funnel, again, like when I say top of funnel, I really mean like the personas, angle, motivation, like social listening, discovery, like that is going to be AI-ified. So like, I actually think the work up here is going to be more AI. The work down here will, because like I don't know if you guys have played with Sora, but like it's just like vibes, right? You sort of hope you get something right. If you try to do like an intricate prompt, Godspeed. But if you get something that's like close and you have a good editor, game over, right? And so that's what I always sort of say to my team. Like, you are sort of filling in the cracks and we are solving the pain points that, you have brought up many times in the past.
Cool.
And everyone's creating something. Everyone's bringing something new to the table every week. And it's just like, it's a great way to get folks like more comfortable with these tools. And then ultimately, like I said initially, our goal is to have creative sort of visionaries. This is the whole ad I want to create. I want to create a 30-second ad of this man going hunting. And then he comes home to his family, presents the deer on the table, the kids eat, whatever. And now our team's going to be way more comfortable creating that, right? And so like, I don't want to be confined anymore by the existing content we have on hand. I want our team to be able to sort of think, not just outside of the box, sort of outside of any parameter that had existed previously. A box, what is bigger than a box? I don't know. Whatever, the prism.
The universe.
Yeah, the universe. I don't know.
Prism, that's electric. I like that.
Yeah. Think outside the prism, sort of Pink Floyd style. Go to that next level. And so we want to have a world where I have this big lofty vision for an ad. Now our editors coming in and saying like, okay, cool. Like this is fun as hell. Like this is up to me to like come up with this. And like the visionaries and the visions are not going to be too prescriptive. So like that is where we're heading. Candidly, for me and a few others on my team, like this process is quick, right? Like I could probably do some B-roll that I feel really comfortable with in like 20 minutes. For someone else that's new to this, it may take them like 4 hours, right? So like that is like a painstaking process. It's exhausting, right? So how do you sort of overcome that hurdle? And what we've done is like for our clients, it's like, we're not going to do 4 AI videos for them a month. We're going to do 1 just so you can get a little bit more comfortable. And it's just sort of like, probably a bad analogy, but put the toad in the water, slowly start heating it up so people get more and more comfortable, with getting, boiled, I guess. But, they're going to hop out. They're going to be fine.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, a member asked me at the meetup that, look, we have 2 people that are fully dedicated to this on our creative team. This is an agency person. This podcast is for 7 and 8 figure brand owners, but I think it's important nonetheless, how they're fully dedicated to this. Everyone was like, wow, we're really jealous of that. Right. And I actually think that's okay, but I actually think that's not necessarily the greatest idea because I think you want to not have this siloed and you want to have everybody kind of what you're talking about be integrated as much as possible and be testing it. And I think that another piece that you didn't mention, maybe you're doing this, is that you want to incentivize people to do this, right? You want to incentivize like, hey, who comes out with the coolest concept? You are going to get a financial bonus that's tied to this. And I think that if you have people in-house or you yourself as the founder are creating these ads, giving yourself a half an hour a day to screw around with this, right? Like, and if you're utilizing Will's workflows, you could see all that's happening is not necessarily dependent upon one tool alone. It's just a number of different things where you're going back and forth between them and refining the outputs and going from there. And, I think if you dedicate some time over a couple weeks, you're going to get pretty good at this stuff, even if it's 30 minutes a day. I mean, that's what I tell myself about weightlifting. I'm like, it's just 60 minutes and over time I'm going to get big like Brad. But anyway, so I think that's important. I think that how do you recommend that people continue to stay on top of this stuff? Because it's obviously changing super rapidly. Like, I feel like every other day there's some new thing. How do you recommend people stay up to date with it? I mean, obviously your newsletter is a place that they can go to, which we can link in the show notes and stuff. But what are other places as well?
Yeah, obviously my Friday newsletter, shameless plug, is all new models. I always go through my workflows there. And just sort of backtrack for 1 second. How do you get people excited? I promise you, if you give your team unlimited access to Midjourney, they will have so much fun that they're going to sort of almost forget about their other work. We have our team going in there and constantly just playing around with it because it really is so much fun. But obviously when you're getting much more analytical with the process, like with Nano Banana Veo 3.1, it's very prescriptive. Midjourney, again, I can't recommend everyone subscribing their team to it. Create a group email. This is probably not kosher, but have everyone go onto that group email. It's $60 a month, and everyone can request as much as they want. And that is a great sort of starting point. So yeah, sorry, what was your second question?
My second question is just talking about where else people can go to keep up to date on stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I can I can share a few Twitter handles that I follow that sort of talk about. The first thing I do when a new model is released is obviously I go to Twitter and I say okay, what use cases are people talking about? So it was Veo 3.1, and so Veo 3.1 dropped a day before we were in Portland. Before I was supposed to do this, do a demo. I was like, shit, okay. And so I went to Twitter and I sort of figured out what are the use cases here? If someone says they're building an N8N flow and they're pumping out 1,000 creatives, block that person. N8N is a great tool for in-house workflows. It is a shit tool for creative output. I'm sorry, because you see our process, right? We have to refine the image or the video at every single stage to get something that's actually workable. You are adding so much risk in saying I'm going to use the first image in Midjourney generates, and I'm going to use the first Nano Banana image, and I'm going to use the first Veo 3.1 image, and that's going to be your output, right?
Well, I don't update. I never put less than 1,000 ads in when I update any campaign. Minimum. It's always a minimum of 1,000. Yeah, it's just the way that I do it. One ASC per. Ad. $1 a piece. That's where I'm at.
Set a 0.1 ROAS target and just let it rip.
Yeah, exactly. So a final question that I have, Will, on a lot of this is, you foresee that the right now you're manually kind of plugging and playing. You foresee that a lot of this is just in what, a year is all this is going to be all in one. You're not going to have to do this, or what's the time frame on this?
Yeah, of course. We're all hypothesizing here. I would say if you don't learn these flows now, you're going to be a little left behind. I would say get really good at these workflows now. In 6 months, maybe a year, the barrier to entry is going to be 0. You'll be able to do effectively all of this on what will be American's WeChat. I don't know who's going to build it, but that is going to sort of be what exists. And I would be remiss to not even talk about the OpenAI browser that was just released, right? Now you can sort of just say, buy me all these different things. So maybe creative will have less of relevance in the future in and of itself, right? So that is GTM, LLM optimization, which is a completely different animal. But at the end of the day, if you are generating creative right now, I read an article the other day that Coca-Cola paid $100,000 for an ad that was generated with Veo 3.1. So, sadly, we're not contracted with Coca-Cola. But what I can tell you is that if you want to sign new clients and you want to really impress big brands, do this now and you will lock them in. If you are on a sales call, go into Sora.com, take their product, say, generate a UGC ad with this product, show it to them on that call, and they're going to sign. We do this all the time. The idea is that now...
The closer move.
Always be closing. One call,
it's good stuff. Well, this is good stuff. I like it. Anyway, keep going. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, all good. So, I will say, if you these enterprise companies and these larger companies know they need to be good at AI, right? They know they're probably falling behind, and so if you lock in an annual contract or a 6-month contract now, when that sort of paradigm shifts and the barrier to entry becomes lower, you're already going to be so much further ahead than anyone else that's just joining, when that sort of barrier to entry is lower, because you're going to know, how to prescribe certain elements, even within a lower barrier to entry, right? And goes back to sort of type 1, type 2 thinking, and type 1, type 2 sort of AI. a lot of people are going to be generating a lot of slop. If you know how to use these AI tools to not generate slop and actually generate something thoughtful with actual, creative prompting and strategy behind it, like you're going to be eons ahead. Like when that barrier to entry, the slop gates open, misinformation is going to be rampant. We're not going to know what's up and down, but what we will know is that like differentiated content that doesn't fit that mold will rise to the top and ultimately win.
Where can I get better at prompting?
Yeah.
How do I get better at prompting?
Again, this is probably a hot take, but I don't think you need to really be a good prompter.
You're just asking GPT, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Write a prompt for this.
Exactly. And that's why, like, I think people get so bogged down with their prompts. And I think that's the wrong mentality to have. I'm sure your prompt is fine. That's why when you subscribe to Midjourney or, Veo 3.1, I think it's like the Google Ultra subscription, you can use your prompt unlimited amount of times. And I promise you will get something that is in the ballpark of what you're looking for. Or conversely, go to Sora and just vibe it. Like that's an option as well. But like, I think people just get too hung up on, when it comes to creative output, people get too hung up on prompting. Obviously, briefing is a completely different animal where prompting actually matters a lot more. But yeah, with creative output, like don't overthink it. The only thing that's important, and I can stop my rant after this, Nano Banana, Seedream, Midjourney, text-based prompts are fine. If you're doing Veo 3.1, JSON prompts work a lot better. So when you're talking to GPT-5, ask for a JSON output, JSON. If you're not familiar, you probably won't recognize like the style if you're not familiar with HTML or coding. But like use that, and then like you can tweak that. So rather than trying to engineer your prompt yourself, put your JSON prompt into Veo, take your output, put that back into GPT, and do that cycle we did earlier, right? Adapt your prompt based on the output you got, right? Don't go into the prompt yourself and like try to tweak it. Like that will just drive you mad. Like this system where you're just sort of like having a positive feedback loop, I promise you, like you'll get a much better output and like you'll be, home in time to pick your kid up from daycare.
So everybody listening to this will be a year ahead because they listen to this, but I'll be at least a couple weeks ahead because I'm going to download this and send it to my team before this goes live. So,
he's going to be closing deals sitting there prompt to this with UGC. That's good stuff. So now let's go into actually getting into some of these prompts really deeply. If we want to, if you want to learn how to do this yourself.
My recommendation for anyone is to always sort of start in Midjourney. It's the easiest platform to utilize. So I'll just share my full screen here. Actually, probably easier just share it up my window. Okay. So again, Journey is the safest, easiest tool to use. If you don't know anything about AI, get Midjourney, $60 a month. You get unlimited prompts and it does video, it does image. Obviously, Meta did a partnership with Midjourney. So I'm sure we're going to be seeing more Midjourney content in there. But again, like this is always my recommended starting point because you can do a lot with it. And so in this sort of exercise, we can talk about, sort of taking a static ad, adding some motion to it. And you can sort of see I was messing around with this, a little bit before our call. One quick thing is when you start with Midjourney, you're going to want to create a new profile and answer these 200 questions. Which do you like more? Which do you like less? It doesn't really affect your output. It's just, trying to train its LLM, of course. But this will give you access to V7 in Midjourney, and that's the model you ultimately want to utilize. So again, where I like to use Midjourney the most, and I think the safest sort of place to start, is taking existing statics you've created and adding some motion to them. So where I like to do, this is actually the only time I ever use ChatGPT is with prompting the sort of content we're discussing now. Everything else I use Claude for. Claude is like a little bit more creative, but ChatGPT, the main reason I use ChatGPT, and this is really important, so like every prompt that has copy in it, you need to include that copy in the prompt. So like, or every ad rather that has copy in it, you need to use that copy in the prompt. And ChatGPT does a better job reading copy on ads than Claude. That's really the main reason. And I'm sure many folks have discovered that in the past. So, here was a Hollow Socks ad, built for serious hunters that I found, in Facebook ad library, right? And so the first thing I want to do is I want to create a prompt. So, let's just sort of say like I'm exhausted, I've had a long day, and I say, I want to take this static ad and convert and add animation to it. I will be using Midjourney. Give me some ideas. So this is generally, sort of brainstorming, like, where do we begin? And so, like, in this case, if it's built for serious hunters, we probably need to like add some animation there. And like, of course, we could do something simple with ruffling leaves or what have you. It doesn't really matter. So we can just sort of see if like anything here is sort of interesting at all. Slow motion, fog drifting, atmospheric lighting, etc. Into the hunt. This is I sent you guys this before, but like maybe having some animals moving in the background. And so like if I had a specific idea here, like I would obviously skip this step. But this is always generally a good place to start. So we'll do what we did earlier. Say, actually, let's animate it so there are a few animals in the background. We want to create a prompt for Midjourney 7. Please include all of the copy that is on the static ad in the prompt. So now this will give me something, semi-usable, theoretically. And nothing like the sycophanted GPT-5. I always miss it when I come back. Okay, cool. So now we have our prompt, right? So I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to go into Midjourney here. I'm honestly going to get rid of all of this and then just go into settings and do 9:16. Make sure our model is on version 7. And then I'm going to
So Will, so for those that are listening, you're saying getting rid of this, and what did you delete there?
Sure. So GPT-5 likes to add on all these sort of extra things, right? Like aspect ratio 9:16, version 7, style raw, chaos 10, motion 3, camera move, slight pan, weird 0. Like these are things that you can customize for, but ultimately it's anything with sort of like the 2 dashes before them, right? And so like if you again like are listening to this, what I would recommend doing is within Midjourney, there's a settings button and you can choose all of these settings yourself within the settings button. So here I'm able to choose my image size. I can just like square, landscape, portrait. We'll just go 9:16 here. Stylization, I just generally use the standards here. Standard. The most important thing is version 7. And always I like to do 4 generations. What I have historically said is that like 1 out of 5 will be good for GIF. 1 out of 10 videos will be good. So, we'll prompt this and you can see within my prompt, it says hollow at the top and it says built for serious hunters. So in my prompt, I'm copying the copy over, which is, definitely an essential part of, and I just realized I didn't add the image first. So let me just do that. So now we have the starting frame and the end frame. So now this is just going to make an assumption. So I'm just going to cancel this one. Cool. Any questions so far while this generates?
No, honestly, super straightforward.
Yeah, it's really not too complicated. So again, like this is just a way to like take your existing statics, multiply them by 2, 5, 10. Like we can go back to our GPT-5 and like maybe there are some other cool ideas in here, right? Like light fog drifts, tiny particles. Like you could do more of like a cinemagraph style, right? So it's again the ability to take your existing content, amplify it for different audiences, if you will.
And in this one, it just put put a deer walking behind it, which is pretty cool. And then what the other ideas that they came up with are looks like some sort of British hunter.
Yeah,
and then
so yeah, this was
there's like an alpaca idea that I came up with. So
yeah,
it's kind of cool.
Totally. And I actually did this a sort of similar prompt earlier, and so we can sort of see here, the outcome of that, right? We have these sort of 4 versions with the buck in the background. A few of them have animation. Obviously, the copy was eliminated from this one, so I would scrap that. But like something like this, I would certainly run. And you can see the copy rendering is very strong, right? Like there's no sort of fuzziness. Everything sort of comes across super clean. And like now I have a GIF that I just created in 12 seconds that I can run as an ad.
Should send it to Zach and let it rip. See if it works.
Yeah, so here we go. Like here's another option,
Ooh,
right?
Those are wild.
Yeah, so now we have like a little bit more animation in the background. And you can see here, we lost our copy, right? So like I said, 1 out of 5 will turn out well. The rest will sort of be mid.
Yeah, but honestly, that's not even that bad, right? Like, the build for serious hunters is up long enough that you might see it, and then you get to see the deer walking more clearly behind. I like how it's rotating.
Totally.
The sock is rotating. That's kind of cool. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's clean. I like that.
Yeah.
I have a question about that quick before we move on though. Do you find that you need to like, I mean, the script that you have is not overly simplistic, right? There's like a decent amount of detail to that. But is there a balance between like how much you should be giving it? Or is what you get back from GPT, like GPT does a pretty good job at keeping it the essentials?
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I think people over engineer their prompts and they think like this little tweak will change that. This little tweak will change this. I'm very much of the mindset that your prompt is fine. Like what GPT spits out to you is good. The reality is that, sort of like human beings, AI is exceedingly inconsistent. So if you prompt that same thing, again, a great part of Midjourney, unlimited $60 a month. So I could just reprompt this thing, 20 times. Eventually I'm going to find something I like. That's going to be a lot faster and a lot less of a headache than me trying to, prompt it. And then I'll be like, oh, wow, this prompt worked perfectly. But that was probably just the reality of you got a good output, luckily with that prompt. So I would say your prompt is fine. Unless you're like, obviously, there's something really explicit in here that doesn't make any sense. Like in this case, if I wanted the copy to sort of stay on longer, what I would do is I would go back to my GPT. I would download this as a GIF, and then I would say, I mean, we can do it. I would download this as a GIF. I would go back to my my GPT chat, and I would say, this was the output. The copy disappears. Can you correct the prompts to have the copy remain on? And so like that's how I would prompt engineer, right? I would take your output, I would put it back into GPT and say like, this is what I got. This is what I want to fix. And like, this will make more sense when we sort of like do product placement because like sometimes you just like really need to isolate one component. And so in this case, like what I did for those listening is like I, downloaded the GIF, I put in the GPT, I said, this is the output, the copy disappears. Can you correct the prompt to have the copy remain on screen for the entirety of the animation? So now I'm going to go back, I'm going to do this sort of the same process. I'm going to delete our little double dashes that have AR16, the aspect ratio. I'm just going to make sure everything looks good here. I'm going to add our starting frame with the built for series hunters, and then I'm just going to reprompt it. So yeah, that's sort of the GIF flow. And like, there's so much you can do here, right? Like this is your playground. If you were to sort of scroll down in here, I would say like my team like uses, like this was an example of an ad we created in Nano Banana. And then we wanted to add some motion to it, right? Like made the fire, made the guy move around, like, cracking a can, what have you. Like our team is in Midjourney all the time. It's just the easiest. It's the lowest barrier to entry. And we'll get here in a second, but also if you need to replace a product, it's a great way to create a good product backdrop. So like if I will say Midjourney sucks at product rendering, like that's why, we don't use Midjourney for anything product specific. It's really for vibes or for creating GIFs, but Midjourney is best as sort of step one. So let's sort of, move into sort of workflow two. So next sort of step in the process, let's talk about sort of product insertion. So I was doing this before. So again, like what I like to do is go to Pinterest. And it seems like, for Zach and his brand, like hunters are very much a big part of, who he's targeting. So if I want to, I did this before, but like hunter, wearing socks, right? And this was my sort of reference image. Maybe there's something a little bit better. Let's just say, maybe we want something like a little bit more vintage.
I would say Zach's probably looking for something more like Murica.
Got it.
Hunter.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Like a bearded, beefy man,
Yeah.
Somebody like Brad,
Andrew.
but with a full, somebody like Brad, but with full facial hair that is like, that loves guns and loves America.
Got it.
Loves his wife.
Maybe a little more of a gut.
Drives a truck. loves a fresh beer ski.
Okay.
Loves a burger. Do you need more?
That fella right there. The tobacco field.
This one?
Left one more. That was actually not, both of those are vibes out.
This could be our guy.
That seems like that's my guy, honestly.
All right.
So for those of you that are listening, it's an older gentleman that is wearing socks. He's got jeans on and he's not smiling at all.
And this is actually, just so we don't get sued, this is actually not the image we're going to use. So what we're going to actually do is we're going to save this image into the void. And then we're going to go into this little nifty tool called free image to prompt generator. Love this guy. And now I'm going to upload that image that we just found. Oops, not that one. Here we go. Here's our friend. And I'm going to generate a mid-journey prompt for him, right? So obviously you can do this in GPT as well, but I find that like this tool, you get 5 free a day. It's just like, it gets it really, really close. So I'm going to take this mid-journey prompt that we just generated with imageprompt.org. I'm going to go back to our friends in Midjourney. We can also look at these. Oh, look, our copy is now staying the entire time. Like, great. We just tweaked that little thing. And now we have an ad. Maybe that one's a little wonky, but you sort of get the idea, right? Like all we did was we took our prompt, we put the output in, and we sort of cleaned it up a bit. Okay. So now I'm just going to take that prompt that we just generated in image prompt.org. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do 9:16, version 7, whatever. And then I'm going to generate that. So this image that we generate is going to be our baseline image that we utilize. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our image, and we'll probably have to reprompt this because we need to be able to see his socks more a little bit. But we're going to be taking this image, and this is going to be our baseline. And another thing that Midjourney doesn't do so well is it like gets people look too like Play-Doh-y, like they're too plastic. It's like very clearly AI. And so we're also going to be using, Seed Dream to clean it up. So you can sort of see this based on that image. This is what we got. So I'm going to actually take one of these images. I'm going to do exactly what I did before. I'm going to go into our GPT chat. I'm going to paste that in here. I'm going to paste our initial prompt in here.
And this is an image of an older gentleman sitting in front of a bunch of guns then standing next to somebody with a flannel. And he's downloading the image. And now you're taking it into a different place, into ChatGPT. Listen to it.
For sure.
So you went Pinterest to the free the image to prompt generator, right? And then you went image to prompt generator into Midjourney. Midjourney kind of missed the socks. It didn't generate exactly what you wanted with the socks showing, obviously, and that's kind of what the product is. So you're taking that back to GPT and you're asking it to show the socks better, right?
Bingo. Exactly.
Oh yeah,
nailed it. Okay. So let's redo this. Let's see what we get. Socks are the main event here. Okay, nice. You can tell we're getting some movement. It's a real guy's guy. This guy loves to crush Budweiser after work.
yeah, yes. I like what I'm saying.
He between the choice of buying a new truck or a older F-150, he would buy the older one because that's when they made them better.
The 1995 whatever version. Andrew, that might be you in like 50 years.
Yeah, it looks, I mean, what we're looking at here, for those of you that are listening, is a photo of an incredibly handsome man. He could be a model, actually, like a handsome older man. And we're going to put some socks on him. Some hollow socks, of course, because those are the best. And because this model / handsome man loves hunting and he likes to have the ability to have his feet be dry, that's where we're giving him hollow socks.
Totally. And it looks like we have a little, some horse saddles in the background. So maybe we also want to prompt this one more time to add some, rifles or, not a big gun guy, but maybe that's rifles. I mean, what do people shoot with?
Bows, guns. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm not sure either. I'm the opposite person to ask about hunting.
Okay. Yeah, me too. I live in New York City. Okay. So let's redo this one more time. And say, and again, every time what I'm doing when I'm refining my prompt, I'm just taking the image that we just generated in Midjourney, putting it back into GPT-5 and saying, in this case, I'm going to say in the background, I would like more, hunting paraphernalia. Nice. So I'm just going to redo this, one final time. And hopefully,
what's interesting about it to me is like it goes back and forth between all these different tools, and you're utilizing them to just refine one another. Which like you said, it's obviously going to be in one place, but I think what's cool about it is it actually is putting together really good outputs like that, So let's say that I run one of these with this old guy, Will, just to be clear, you have to say this is created with AI in your ads. If it's utilizing some like person, you have to disclose that from an FTC standpoint, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that is, that you have to say this is AI generated. Same thing
Yes.
you'd have to do, like if you're using UGC Actor, right? Like you'd have to say paid actor, sort of same idea.
Right. You have to just FYI to everybody out there that you do have to do that.
Yeah. And
Everybody
like,
totally does that too, especially with UGC creators.
oh, totally.
Everyone does this, of course, and it's 100% compliance across the board. But I do know that the FTC, we all follow that lawyer guy on Meta or X. I mean, it's case after case of like, hey, they utilize this, they didn't disclose this. Like this stuff's coming out more and more. And if you're a bigger company that's scaling, you just really got to CYA to make sure you're okay.
For sure. Okay, so I actually feel great about this image. I feel like there's, we're sort of hitting the nail on the head. We can see the socks really well, so being able to swap the product out will be great. He's got some camo gear, he's got some buckhorns, he's got, some rifles. So yeah, I feel pretty good about this. And again, you can sort of see like if we zoom in on our friend here, like it still feels like a little plasticky. So that's another thing we're going to have to adjust for. Like, especially these ones, these are much more offensive. Like you can very clearly tell these are AI. This guy's actually not horrible. But ultimately, we will want to sort of clean that up. So, okay, next step in the process, I'm going to download this image. And here, let me actually share my full screen here. So you can see me do this. Okay, so I've now downloaded this image. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to, is this our friend? I'm going to open this in preview, and then I'm going to go to Tools, Annotate, Rectangle, and I'm going to highlight just his socks. I'm going to do it for both socks.
Okay, this is some mastery shit right here. I've done a lot of what you're talking about, thanks to you teaching me, but I haven't done this, which is literally just creating a box around the socks.
Yes.
To say, hey, this is what I'm looking for.
Exactly. And the reason we're doing this is like we actually won't use the box when we're generating the image prompt, but we will use the boxes for GPT to write a succinct prompt to ensure that nothing else changes but the socks. And so we'll sort of see what that looks like. So we're going to go back to our GPT that we've been working with. We're going to grab our little friend, the hunter, big manly friend, sorry. We're going to put that in here. And then what I'm also going to do is grab a photo of hollow socks. So I'm just going to, grab something without copy on it. I guess like, this is the one that they're advertising for hunters. So maybe I'll just save this one.
Mm-hmm. It's a nice one. Yep. Orange and black, high top crew. Yep.
Perfect. So what I'm going to do now is we have our hunter friend. I'm going to take this hollow socks image and say, okay, next step. Please write a nano banana prompt to put the socks on the hollow socks. In the prompt, please include all copy that appears on the sock. Please note, we will not be uploading the red boxes. So our prompt needs to be succinct enough to change just that element and nothing else. And then I think I'm not missing anything there. So let's do that. I will be uploading both the image of the elderly gentleman and the hollow socks. Okay, cool. So now what I'm going to do, let's go back to our image. Maybe I'll save this one as, or I'll just, now we have this in GPT, we can just delete this. So I'm going to save this. Okay, cool. This is for Nano Banana, not Midjourney 7. Sometimes it will think you're doing one thing then another. Again, we need to pinpoint and change just the socks. Okay, this is a little short. I'm not super bullish on this, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so now I'm in a tool called Fal.ai. If you've ever spoken to me about AI creative, I've definitely mentioned this to you. It's a Higgsfield competitor. Effectively, what it is just like it combines all of the AI models into one place. So it's just like very easy to, use anything. The only tool I don't utilize in Fal, actually two, Midjourney is, because obviously Midjourney doesn't have an API, so Fal couldn't use it. And Veo 3. Veo 3.1, I guess, I use directly in Google DeepMind in what they call Flux, because there you're able to, if you pay like $120 a month, you get unlimited Veo 3 fast. And in this case, it's sort of pay as you go. Okay, so now we're in Fal.ai in Nano Banana. I'm going to put our prompt in here. I'm going to add our images. Oh, I don't know why this is showing up as. I'm going to generate 4 images because, again, I would say 1 out of 5 is okay. Aspect ratio 9:16, and I'm going to run it. And so, again, for those of you listening, I did not include the little red boxes around the guy's feet. The only thing the red boxes are used is to make sure your GPT prompt is proper, right?
So, oh yeah, looks like he's wearing some hollow socks there.
Yeah, but again, like this, not a great first output, right? Because it just says hollow. But as you can see, sort of nothing else changed. So now I would go back to our GPT, copy this image, and paste it in here, and say we need to include more detail in our prompt, as the output did not match the sock exactly. Please analyze the skew image of the sock and include that detail in the banana.
What's interesting about this is that it's utilizing all these tools in combination with one another, and it's also getting some really good outputs very quickly. Like we've only been doing this for essentially like 30 minutes, and we have a number of things that we can use.
Okay, so again, like not perfect. I would probably want to prompt this a few more times to get the socks to be exactly right. But let's just say we were happy with this, so we can sort of switch topics. The most important thing, not the most important thing, but an important thing, this is just like a little bit of a hack, is again making him look a little less plasticky. And that's what I use the Seadream model for.
And we can include, Will, by the way, for podcast listeners, we can include notes from you to make sure that people can like walk through this a little bit themselves of the things that you've covered and a couple of other ideas.
For sure.
Just so they can guide through it themselves.
Definitely. And like, again, this is one of these things where you just want to do it yourself. Like that's the best way to learn. Watching me do this is probably helpful, but it's only a starting point. So there's one very simple prompt to make people look a little less plasticky. I put it in our notes over here, but it's just this. So it's image_3984.cr2. As I understand it, the Seadream model was trained on Canon RAW files. So when you include the .cr2 within the prompt, it makes it HD. And then I say, please upscale, this person, showcase pores, etc., and make them feel less plastic. And so I'm going to, again, let's do 4 images, and we'll do portrait 9:16. Seadream takes a second, so I can sort of pause there, show you guys the output. It'll probably take a minute or two, and we can sort of switch topics.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'd be curious, like before we switch to the operational stuff and come back to that, like why don't we just, I think it'd be helpful to list out some of the workflows that you have with the specific tools. So like you started with the static to GIF peanut butter, static to GIF with Midjourney. The next thing you did was you kind of combined some of those things, but then you also used Nano Banana for product insertion. Fixing the plastic nature of them is using Seadream. Is there anything else with those 3 tools that are worthwhile to chat on, or do you want to just like quickly mention the other couple that you've got?
Yeah. So Seadream, again, I would say has 2 really good use cases. One is like making people look like people, and 2, it's image resizing. It's a very simple prompt. If you have like a 9:16 image, upload it to GPT. Please read all of the components of my 9:16 image. Take that prompt, put it into Seadream, and then change the aspect ratio directly in Seadream. And that way you can I think I did this actually ahead of our call for, and I can show you this quickly for these guys, right? So like this was a 9:16 image. I said, please resize this exact ad to 1:1 square format while preserving every visual element, composition, text hierarchy, keeping the 2 black and orange, hollow, 1 labeled over the calf, etc. Like what I did is I uploaded my 9:16 image into GPT. I had GPT read every piece of copy on it and then include every piece of copy in the prompt as well as the different components. So like, of course, some of these, they're going to change a little bit, but like, there we go, right? That's a perfect, 1:1 image of that exact same thing. So like, if you just like don't have the time, energy, or effort to just like quickly resize something, sometimes we'll just do this and it works very well. The one sort of caveat is make sure you're using HD, the HD feature directly in Seadream. Cool. So now we sort of go back to our guy here. Again, he looks a lot better, right? Like he actually feels, a bit more human. Like I think this is probably the best. It's just like a great way to get like more consistent coloring across the board. And so like if I were to go, one step further, my sort of final step in this process would be taking this image, going to VO 3.1 and using this image as a start frame. And then I would take this image as well, upload it, back into Nano Banana and have this man maybe, hunting and then using those as a start and end frame. And now I have a great piece of B-roll of the man sort of sitting in his shop, just maybe he's like moving a little bit. And then it transitions to him like walking around with the socks in the woods, actually like hunting doe or whatever it is.
Yeah. Or he's like pulling up the sock, putting his boot on. Like,
exactly.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so like it's all you would really do is take this image that we just generated in Seedream, put it back into Nano Banana and say, using this man, create XYZ scene. And now you have an end frame. So you can create like a whole piece of B-roll with the person wearing, the proper socks.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a ton to say here. Will, appreciate your time. Appreciate you being here. We'll share your document to anybody in the show notes on scalabilityschool.com. It'll also be in the show notes on youtube.com /scalability school, where you can find us. Or you can email Brad at sexy@brad.net. No, I'm just kidding. That's not his email.
Yeah,
or you can
email.
You can email me at andrew@foxwelldigital.com, and I'm happy to connect you into any of the resources that you need. Will, a banger episode.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
This episode is brought to you by Homestead's email and SMS service. Honestly, we've done an episode with Jacob from Homestead. He's the man, and he's got to be probably one of the smartest email and retention operators like on the agency side, hands down. I look forward to seeing like the tweets that he puts out basically every single month with like a recap of the designs. And as amazing as the designs themselves are, it's the actual like tactical behind the scenes work where he just like knows what he's doing. And the team at Homestead like really know what they're doing on email and SMS. Probably, if not the number one, very close to competing for number one retention agency in the DTC space. So just killing it.
Yeah, absolutely agree. If you are looking at your emails and you're like, these are terrible, and you can optimize the flows and you can do SMS better, you got to look at the Homestead team. So check them out, reach out, and they can definitely help make your entire email and retention and SMS program so much better. And I'm not just saying that. We've all seen the work. I actually had a member who sat down with Jacob at the founder meetup that we had, and he came over to me and said, I just talked to him for 10 minutes and literally he's revolutionized my entire email department. So agencies are modeling themselves off of what Jacob is giving them for advice. So anyway, onwards to hopefully working with them. The only way that we grow this podcast is by you sharing it with your friends. Honestly, like reviews kind of don't really mean anything too much anymore. They're really meaningful, but they don't do a lot for the growth of the podcast. And so sharing YouTube links, sharing Spotify links, sharing Apple, whatever we call it under the podcast app now, anything you can share, the better we're going to be. Guys, anything else you want to say on this?
Yeah, please go check us out on YouTube. Rack up those views for us. We'd love to see it. And then subscribe. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube as well.
And I relentlessly refresh the YouTube comments because it dictates my mental health for the day. So please say something nice about all of us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you for listening, honestly.